The journey began in the dead of night. Marie Antoinette was moved from the Temple Tower to the Conciergerie prison. A short trip, but a world apart. The temple had held echoes of her family. The Conciergerie was the antechamber of death. Her captors wanted to break her spirit, stripping away every remnant of her former life. This was no longer royal imprisonment. She was now just another enemy of the revolution. The transfer was abrupt and cruel. She was woken in darkness, separated from her sister-in-law, and rushed through cold corridors. The guards offered no comfort, only fear and confusion. By placing her among common criminals, the revolutionaries sent a clear message. She was no longer special, just prisoner, number 280. The Conciergerie's damp, ancient walls were thick with despair. For Marie Antoinette, it was like stepping into her own tomb. The air reeked of decay, iron doors clanged, and distant cries echoed. Here, death was a constant presence. The move was a strategic blow, meant to show her, and the public, that hope was gone. Her fate was now a public spectacle, a declaration that the so-called Austrian she-wolf was cornered. The revolutionaries demanded not just her death, but her utter humiliation. The transfer was the first act in a final cruel play. It set the stage for the horrors to follow. Her captors believed that by breaking her, they could destroy the symbol she represented. The Conciergerie was a place where the monarchy's last illusions died. Every detail of her transfer was calculated to dismantle her identity. She was no longer a queen, but a number in a system designed to erase her. The revolutionaries wanted to erase royalty from memory. The Conciergerie was their tool. For Marie Antoinette, it was the beginning of the end. The world she had known was gone. Only the shadow of the guillotine remained. Her new home was a small, damp cell on the ground floor. Furnished with only a cot, table, and stool, it offered no comfort. A crude screen mocked the idea of privacy. 2 guards watched her every move, day and night. This was psychological torment, designed to unmake her as a person. The cell was dark, the air heavy with the stench of the sand and poor sanitation. Water seeped through the walls. Her health quickly declined. She suffered constant hemorrhages, ignored by her jailers. Isolation was total. Her only kindness came from a servant girl, Rosalie, who offered small comforts. These moments of compassion were rare sparks in the darkness. Despite misery, Marie Antoinette fought to maintain her dignity. She kept her cell tidy, mended her dress, and maintained composure before her guards. These were small acts of resistance, ways to hold on to her sense of self. In a world designed to dehumanize her, she insisted on her humanity. Her cell was a kingdom of sorrow, but she still ruled her own spirit. She refused to let her tormentors see her break. The greatest cruelty was not the loss of her crown, but the loss of her children. In the temple, her role as a mother gave her strength. The revolutionaries knew this was her vulnerability. One night, they tore her young son Louis Charles from her arms. Her pleas were ignored. She was powerless. The boy was handed to a cobbler, meant to erase his royal identity. She heard his cries for days, each one a dagger in her heart. The pain of separation haunted her in the Conciergerie. She was now utterly alone, cut off from her children. The silence was torture, her captors using her children as weapons. This emotional agony was more effective than any physical deprivation. The revolution was not just destroying a monarchy but a family. Marie Antoinette was left with nothing but grief and fading memories. Marie Antoinette's trial began on October 14, 1793. It was political theater. The verdict decided before she entered. The courtroom was packed with a hostile crowd. The prosecutor, Fouquier Tinville, listed charges from treason to conspiracy, most without evidence. The accusations descended into personal slander, painting her as a monster. The goal make her execution a public necessity. The most shocking moment came when she was accused of abusing her own son. The courtroom fell silent. For the first time, her composure cracked. She rose and appealed to the mothers present. Is such a crime possible? Her raw appeal stirred even her enemies. For a moment, she exposed the accusation as a grotesque lie. She reminded all that beneath the caricature was a grieving mother. It was a flash of unbreakable spirit in the face of injustice. The trial was a performance, but she refused to play the villain. After the guilty verdict, Marie Antoinette's final hours became a ritual of humiliation. She was denied her mourning dress, forced into a plain white gown of the condemned. Her hair was crudely shorn, stripping her of femininity and status. Her hands were bound tightly behind her back. Every action was cold, efficient, meant to reduce her to a body for disposal. Unlike her husband, she was paraded through Paris in an open cart, exposed to jeers and insults. The revolutionaries wanted her public shame to be complete. Each step was a calculated blow. The dress, the hair, the ropes, the cart. They sought to erase the queen, leaving only the despised widow Capet. These acts were not random. They were systematic, designed to destroy her image. Her tormentors believed that by erasing her identity, they could erase her power. It was the final act of a revolution determined to obliterate its past, but even in humiliation, she retained her dignity. The journey to the Place de la Révolution began at 11. Marie Antoinette, hands bound, sat upright in the open cart. The streets were lined with thousands, jeering and hurling insults. She did not flinch or plead. Her composure was unbroken. Her silence was a final act of defiance. The procession was slow, a spectacle for the revolution. The cart passed places from her former life, now scenes of public scorn. Artist Jacques-Louis David sketched her proud posture as she passed. Her dignity seemed to enrage the crowd further. She was utterly alone, yet refused to break. The priest beside her offered comfort, but she had already made her peace. She had written a final letter to her family, expressing love and forgiveness. As the cart rumbled on, she prepared herself for the end. Her passage was not the spectacle of a broken criminal, but of courage. In the face of cruelty, she remained unbowed. The tumbril reached the Place de la Révolution. The guillotine loomed over the silent crowd. Marie Antoinette was helped down, her movements stiff. As she climbed the scaffold, she accidentally stepped on the executioner's foot. Instinctively, she apologized. "Pardon, monsieur. I did not do it on purpose." Even at the end, she showed grace and dignity. She stood on the platform, looking out over the crowd. The executioners quickly positioned her. She did not resist. At noon, the blade fell. Her head was shown to the crowd. A cry of "Vive la République" erupted. Her death was meant as the revolution's triumph. But in her final moments, she achieved a different victory. She faced death with courage, refusing to be the monster they imagined. Her last words were an act of grace that would define her legacy. The revolution sought not just to kill the queen, but to erase her. Her body and head were thrown into a mass grave at the Madeleine Cemetery, quicklime hastening her disappearance. No relics, no grave. She was to be forgotten. For decades, her resting place was unknown. After the monarchy's restoration, her remains were sought and found. The fragments were identified and given a royal burial at Saint-Denis. This act was a political statement, an attempt to heal the wounds of the revolution. The attempt to erase her had failed. Her journey from a mass grave to the royal basilica became a testament to her enduring story. Memory, it turned out, could not be buried. The men who destroyed Marie Antoinette wanted to create a monster. Through propaganda and humiliation, they tried to make her a symbol of everything wrong with the old regime. But their plan backfired. The more they stripped away, her crown, her family, her dignity, the more her inner strength shone. In prison, she showed quiet fortitude. At her trial, she appealed to motherhood. On her final journey, she displayed supernatural calm. On the scaffold, her last words were of grace. Her tormentors revealed an unbreakable spirit. The image that endures is not of a villain, but of a woman in white, facing fate with courage. Her suffering transformed her into a symbol of resilience. Her story became a tragedy about dignity in the face of cruelty. The quiet dignity of the queen in the tumbril has outlasted the roar of the crowd and the blade of the guillotine.